disassociates herself from the feminist movement. She was still very much active and working in the 90s, and I felt it was important to include her for as much as for the historicity of what was happening in the 90s, and also the incredible ways that she uses the materials that she works with. So I don't know if you might be able to all fit in there. It's kind of a small space. Maybe we can kind of go through it and circle it out.
Maybe distancing herself.
Well,
that's how you identify.
yeah, that's all. Yeah, your eyes will have to adjust. It's kind of a dark space, but just kind of circle through.
Oh, yes.
Or is it in here?
Yeah.
This is cast resin, and though it has a painterly quality, this is not necessarily a painting. It's almost like a two-dimensional sculpture, and with the emphasis on light and how light brings out shapes and forms. And so Helen Pashkin, I actually received a phone call from her when I included her in the show, and she, said, I'm not sure about being in this show because I'm not a feminist. I don't want to be part of feminism. I don't want to be associated with that. And I had kind of explained to her that why I felt it was important to include her work is because I think that freedom to disassociate themselves from feminism and maybe directly the politics of feminism is something that is prevalent in women artists working in the 90s. So I think prior feminist movements really did allow them to have more freedoms to do that. And Helen Pashkin may have been ahead of her time in the way like Eva Hesse kind of was as well, where they kind of were consistently interested in these materials and what they could create and the formal properties of those materials consistently throughout the span of her work, which she's been working for over almost 5 decades. So I think but I think that's interesting to think about how an artist like her, she's now 84, and what she was doing at the exact same time, creating work like this and consistently creating work like this at the same time that, say, Meg Cranston with Snuffs was working. So I think that the decade was that 90s, that period, you really did see such a diversion of the types of work and that work being created, even though it was a transitional period.
Is it meant to be shown in a dark room?
It is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the lighting, she is her work, it is all about the lighting and the way that light interacts with it. And in fact, actually, we are still working on trying to get the lighting just right for this because it is very specific. But the idea is that if light wasn't on this, you wouldn't even really be able to see these forms. The light is what draws out those forms and those shapes. There's even some more shapes here in the corner. You can kind of see a hint of them. But too much light, the light has to be perfect too, because too much light and it becomes very reflective, like a mirror, and then you lose the shape and you become distracted by reflections and your own reflections. So her work is very, very detailed.
I'm just curious, has she always been anti-feminism, and was she working along the time of Judy Chicago and Eleanor Antin? I think it's really a really interesting intersection of
and Mary Corse, and yeah, she I think that just that's why I admire her work so much, is that she kind of has stayed consistent throughout her process and worked alongside male artists like Robert Irwin and James Turrell, who were great art colleagues of hers. And so she's just someone who's really been a pioneer for women artists in that sense. But
could you give a rationale for why she didn't want to be associated with feminist artists?
Well, I think what my feeling on that is that at the most intense time of her practice was probably the 60s and the 70s, and the work that was being created at that time by a lot of women artists was in my mind it almost kind of had to be political in order for them to validate what they were doing, or they felt had to validate what they were doing, and
Like Judy Chicago.
Right. And so work that was so ardently political was being created at the time, and because her work, that wasn't something she was interested in doing. It really was guided by, I think it was really guided by the materials, by exploring them and understanding how they shaped and how they moved. She also does, these beautiful sculptural work as well, three-dimensional sculptural work. So I think that it's almost like she had no choice. She had to either go this way and go with the feminist artists in the 60s and the 70s, or she could try to compete or work alongside what the male artists were doing, kind of establish herself in that route. And I think she chose that. And that was sort of, she just had very, very little options, I think. And I think she doesn't, and that's a choice too. That's something that a freedom that women artists, now we take for granted, but I think that she had that choice to say, I do or I don't want my art to be about this, is something to say too about, yeah.
But don't you think, do you think she would acknowledge that she's getting recognition now because of the work of those feminist artists? That, she was doing obviously quality work, just like Fred Kaufman or these other, but when I first started learning about this stuff, I didn't know about her.
Yeah.
Whereas because of those feminists, there is much more of an inclusive attitude, I think, in re-examining your art.
I definitely see that, and I think other curators and historians would probably see that. I couldn't say, sometimes artists, they're working, and our responsibility as a curator is to sort of help, see those historical elements and what's happening, but artists may not necessarily be aware of that. I mean, I do think it is interesting, though, that same like Marilyn Minter, that now these artists are getting recognition, and like you said, they do owe I think they do owe a great debt to the work that was created. You can see it sort of like that idea of Jackson Pollock. Jackson Pollock had to create the work he created so that it could break apart sort of the art world and then lead into more postmodernist art. And same
But
I think
again, time in and of itself might have made this artist, and Marilyn Minter, recognized for its intrinsic value without being linked to a school.
yeah, that could be. Yeah.
When did she become recognized?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I think she's had recognition. She's in collections like the LACMA, and her work is in major collections, but she's never had a major retrospective. Even Marilyn Minter has her beat by that, by a decade. And she was working and making work, I think comparable, if not even surpassing the works of other male artists that were working at the same time. But I think because she was a woman artist, I think she was overlooked. Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the process of how did she do this?
The process is for this work, it's kind of mysterious to me. I'm not really sure. I know more about her process for her sculptural work. I know that it's poured resin. This is epoxy resin. So I know that there's a lot of layering that's going on with these works. There's a lot of layering of shapes and materials and colors. So it kind of it's almost like a multi-layered transparency. But in terms of how she's able to get the three-dimensionality of those shapes, that kind of eludes me. There's a mysterious quality which is intentional of the work.
How close can you get to that painting with the kids? I'm just.
I wouldn't get too close.
Like arm's distance type of thing? Or?
I'd actually not go any further than the bench.
Okay.
And I'm saying that not for the, not just for the work to not be damaged, but also because I think it's really meant to be viewed from
Okay.
too far from that distance or further back, because if you get up too close, it becomes more reflective and you kind of lose the shapes of the light.
It's something kind of interesting about her personality there too, that it seems personal, because usually you would have the center of attention be a little bit more in the middle, and it's kind of like it's emerging. There's darkness, and then there's more of an openness, and then kind of an emergence way over here on the right of her idea, of her color. So there's a secrecy sort of, a hiddenness and a mystery here, and then kind of an emerging, opening of the flower?
Yeah, in fact, it almost feels like a doorway, like you're looking through, if you see the imagery lit a little bit more on the left side too, you can see it's like this asymmetrical opening where you're almost like you're going through and looking at those shapes.
And yet the greatest
Yes.
contrast is that middle piece. You know, that usually brings your eye to the center.
Yes.
How does an artist who is painting something for a dark room able to figure out what it is when he or she is obviously painting in a lighted room?
I mean, I think that's an amazing quality of her work and the artist, is that she's very inventive and her work is genius. And we can watch some great video documentaries even on YouTube about her. There's one that the Getty Institute did on her that's really fascinating. It shows her process, how she creates work. She's very, she's definitely a perfectionist in her work. If there's one small flaw in the surface of her sculptures or paintings, she'll recreate the entire surface. Some artists would probably try to work with it or sand it out or something. She'll just recreate the entire surface. So there's definitely the very high attention to detail in her work.
What's it look like in the real light compared to this?
Oh, in the real light, it just looks black. And the light literally does draw out the shapes. It's very.
Or the lack of light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does she specify the lighting as well as the paint
She does.
color of the
Mhm.
wall?
She paints. Yeah, she's very. This is meant to be an installation. This is. I would think of this work as an installation. It's an experience, like almost like a Rothko or like other light and space artists like Irwin or this. This definitely it's about the experience and the environment, not just about the piece on the wall. Like many of the works, the rest of the works in the exhibition, but it really is about the experience of this piece. Well, let's go out into the pavilion. Great questions and comments.